Hi, I'm Jennifer Wild, and you're listening to Sober Exposure. If it's about recovery, we're gonna cover it. It's like one big therapy session, but it's free. So thanks for joining our dysfunctional family as we uncover recovery with Sober Exposure. Let's go. All right. You ready? 3, 2, 1. Hey, Sober Exposure. Look at this. I wore it just for you.
Awesome.
All right. So we have, look at this. We've got another musician on Sober Exposure. Go figure. This is becoming a trend and I like it, especially as an ex-groupie. I'm sure you can tell us some groupie stories. But we have, okay, I don't know if I should play my song first. Okay, so I wrote a special song for you. We have Acey Slade, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sober Exposure. And I actually wrote a song, and Lemmy and I kind of collaborated with it. And it goes like this. It's Acey Slade, Acey Slade. Come on, has anyone ever sang that to you before?
Yeah, they have.
Oh! And here I thought I was reinventing the wheel, you know? Anyway.
Yeah, no. But it's even, you know, sometimes I sing it to myself, so which is kind of pathetic. So if that makes you feel about it.
Okay, well that's great because that song's been in my head all friggin' day, but not the Ace of Spades. It's Acey Slade. That's my version. So I'm gonna serenade him, sing it to him, and maybe I'll get signed. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, how you been? Last time we spoke, you were out of the country. You're back here, safe and sound.
Yeah, I got a man. It's crazy. I had a gig come up at the last minute for a band that was playing in Moscow, and you know, the short story is like the gig was confirmed at 8:30 in the morning. I had an 8:30 flight that night. I had to go to Germany for a week of rehearsals, and then we got to Moscow. Landed, everything was cool, and then the gig got canceled.
What? Oh my God, you're kidding me. Hey, at least you got hopefully a free trip to Moscow. And
I got paid. I got a bonus because they felt bad about it. So that's the short version of it. But it ended up being a really amazing trip. And you know, it's funny. I have people ask me all the time, like, "Oh, you've had so many experiences in music. Like, you should write a book." And my reply is always like, "Yeah, but I feel like I'm still living it." Like, I feel like all these crazy ass stories and wild adventures and all that shit, man, I'm not even close to crossing the finish line for that. So I have been doing a thing with my Patreon, and, you know, you were asking about things to plug. I have a Patreon where every week I do what's called Dead Time Stories. And I go through my week of events that happened in history of my playing that week, whether it was playing with Joan or with Dope or Murderdolls or Misfits or any of my bands. And it's like whatever happened that week, I kind of give a recap. So
great, cool. And we're talking Joan, for those that are the Joan, I Love Rock and Roll, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, formerly of the band The Runaways. That Joan Jett, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that. I mean, I want to talk about that because I have so many questions I want to ask about. I actually met Joan Jett briefly, and I don't even know if I should even tell the story because I was working at a radio station. She's like, "Where's the bathroom?" And I showed her where the bathroom was, and I'm not going to continue. Anyway, I'm not going to continue the Joan Jett story, but she was awesome. She was gracious. She's a lot of times, you know, you never know with you guys, with you musicians. You guys can be, you don't know. Sometimes you sit down and you can get someone that's awesome and cool, you know, and then the worst is like you get like Joe Perry of Aerosmith. Worst interview ever. I mean, I'm telling him literally, like, when I was 8 years old, Joe, I sat on your lap at an in-store when you were signing your first album in, you know, Cleveland, Ohio. You know, you'd think that the guy would light up and be like, "Oh, really? You sat on my lap when you were 5? You know?
Uh-huh.
He's like, "Oh, cool. Cool story." The only time I could get anything out of him is if I brought up like Led Zeppelin. When I started talking about Zeppelin, he lit up, but that was it. So, those of you that didn't know, I never knew this about you, but I don't know how I didn't. I was a big fan of the band Dope. I love that band. I remember I was working at a rock station and I was like begging the program director, and he's like, no, I got to play the new Pearl Jam track. It wasn't Pearl Jam. It was later than that. But, you know, I mean, they're on Godsmack. Why can't they play, you know, why can't they play Dope?
Yeah.
Right? So you're in recovery.
Yes.
All right. This is a recovery show. You want to tell us a little bit about, I know that you grew up in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? So
Yes, that is correct.
Just maybe give us a little, I know your sister, I met your sister. She's awesome. I believe it was your younger sister. I also know that your older sister influenced you with music with, I heard a story about how she was listening to Cheap Trick, and that's how it all started for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, you know, I grew up in halfway between like Amish country and halfway between Philadelphia. If you went, you know, 10 minutes in one direction, it was horse and buggy. And if you went 10 minutes in the other direction, it was, you know, suburbia, sprawling suburbia. And yeah, you know, there's a few memories that are very crystal clear to me. One of them was, I remember the first class trip that we took going into the city, going into Philadelphia. And I remember very clearly, I mean, I would have been like 8, 9 or something like that. And I remember seeing the city and seeing the prostitutes and the strip clubs and the graffiti and everything and going, this is where I belong. I'm fucking out. I'm out. Like, I didn't know what I'm out of here meant. And I didn't know that I was like running. I was like a moth to the flame for the danger, you know, and for the edgy. I didn't see like skyscrapers and, you know, Wells Fargo banks and go, that seems like the proper way to get to the top, young man. No, right. I saw, I was like, that's what I want, you know? And I was like 8. Yeah. And then, you know, my sister, as I got older, I was getting interested in girls, and, you know, I was chubby and everything. And, you know, girls weren't interested in me. And I remember my sister had a copy of Cheap Trick's Dream Police. Cats are going to be in here, by the way. So,
oh, that's okay. We got plenty of dogs that'll be barking too.
So anyway, so I remember my sister had a copy of Cheap Trick's Dream Police. Her and her friend are like, oh my God, these guys are so cute. And my mom walks by and she goes, you just like them because they got long hair and they're in a band. And I was like, that's it, you know? So that kind of got me interested in it. But also, you know, the boringness of suburbia, you know, music was a great, especially the more visual a band was, the more of an escape from reality it was for me. So I quickly got into stuff like Alice Cooper and the Misfits and anything that was kind of outsidery. Like the more outsidery it was, the more I liked it. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't kind of the more typical stuff, you know. So yeah, so, you know, played in local bands and did that whole thing. And you know, at 20, the day I graduated high school was the day I moved to Philadelphia. I moved to the city. And I wanted music and the music lifestyle to be my life, you know. And that included everything like the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, the Johnny Thunders thing, you know, the all of it, you know, the excessive part of it, you know. So the first thing I did was I got a job at like a rock and roll stage clothes store. So it would be like a Hot Topic, but only this was before Hot Topic was in every month. And did that and saw that as a way to network with people and meet people. And I did that. And to be honest with you, that was one of the first times that I also saw the red flag of my partying. You know, I remember me and some friends went out and we got shit faced and you know, not to be too graphic about it, but like I remember waking up in the morning and there was blood on my wall. And I had cut myself. And I remember my friends just being like, yo, dude, like that wasn't cool. And I don't even know what happened. I still don't know what happened to this day because I wanted to look like I had my shit together, you know. I didn't want to be like, you know, like, what did I do? You know, I was like, oh, it's cool, man. Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck did I? So, you know, it was basically another, you know, 7 years of that, 6, 7 years of that. And I wanted to be, I was a bar star, I was like a guy known in the local scene, but I wasn't really going anywhere. And the more the drugs and the more the lifestyle took precedence over the actual art, the more the less productive I became.
I was going to say the less motivation. Yeah. Yeah. And I hate
Oh,
to interrupt, but I just have to tell you, because you basically described my first drunk as well. You can't say, but I have a scar right here, and pretty much the same thing happened. My first drink, out of control, drunk, woke up the next morning, a scar on my neck, didn't know what happened, but I was like, oh my God, I think that was horrible, but part of it was great. And whatever it was, I can't wait to do it again. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that I heard when I got involved in recovery was, we don't regret the past, nor do we wish to relive it. And so that was important for me, because I felt like I needed to. Music and art was always such a part of my life that there was a part of me that felt like, if I deny all that, I'll deny part of who I am. And I think that's really what that saying is. Like, we don't regret the past, nor do we wish to relive it. I think that it's saying that, there's an authentic self there, even when we're out there,
Mm-hmm.
at your core.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I was going nowhere fast, basically. And I had a friend of mine who was in recovery, and it was at the point where this friend of mine, he was kind of like another guy in the scene that everybody kind of looked up to. And he got me a job where we were, like this millionaire had bought a school, like a school from like the 1800s, which would mean it, had like 10 rooms, it was like a 10-room mansion. And this guy just wanted the whole place like repainted, the walls patched, just basic, like regular, really easy shit, painting the walls, sanding them, doing that type of crap. And we could make our own schedule, keep track of our own hours, get paid cash every week. And I was budgeting the hours that I would work to my party, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my friend, like, and this guy was paying us really good money. I want to say it was like, let's just say it was $25 an hour cash, and this is 22 years ago. So it was like pretty good money, And like, my friend is showing up at like 10, and he's leaving at like 3:30, like, he's not killing himself, and he's buying himself a new guitar, And I'm like, well, I wonder how come he's got all that extra money. It's like, oh, because I show up at noon and leave at 3. Right. Okay. And then, I had an experience where I basically went on a bender. My family lost track of me. This is pre-cell phone, pre-smartphone. And my car had run out of gas at a bridge that connected Philadelphia and New Jersey. And I just left the car there with my Les Paul in it, with my guitar in it, with my band had just pressed all of our CDs. So that was like a couple $1,000. Like, I just fucking abandoned everything, had a girl come pick me up, and continued the rampage and the partying. And I was like, fuck it, I'll get my car later.
Acey? Just leave it there.
Totally. And what I didn't realize was that, like, when people abandon a bridge, a car on a bridge, it usually means they killed themselves. So I didn't even think about that. So several days later, like, I go to get my car, the car's gone. I call home and I'm like, hey, has anybody seen my car? And they're like, everybody's freaking out.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, we thought you were dead. Like, where have you been? And so this was around the time I was working with this buddy of mine. And to backtrack a little bit, there's a history of alcoholism in my family. My dad was an alcoholic, but like right around in my early teens, my dad got sober. And it was one of the only times my house and my life, everything seemed kind of normal. It was when my dad was sober. So I knew about recovery. And so around this time, I just like knew the gig was up. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, yeah, this is done, man. Like, everybody kind of had it with me, even though they weren't like, I wasn't in jail yet. I was just fucking lame.
Yeah, just right. I mean, okay, so there was no jail. There was no, DUIs or anything like that, but you just in your soul, you knew it. But my question is, this is what, because I'm one that, I don't know if they have the chip system where you are, but the white chips where you pick up the white chip in AA when you keep relapsing. And I don't like to call myself a chronic relapser because I believe that you are what you label yourself as. But I was never, that was not my story. So you were just able to say, I've had it, I'm done, that's it. And that's your sobriety date?
Basically, yeah, I got really lucky.
Shit, man. How do you guys do that? Like, because we've got that like forgetter where I'll say that and then my euphoric recall will come and I'll forget about, because I have had DUIs and I have had drug possession charges. I had my mugshot all over, like everywhere. And I'll forget that. And I'll just remember the 20 seconds of the good feeling when I first take that first hit or that first drink,
Well, I wish I had an answer for that. Yeah. But I mean, I will say this, I say this because I'm skipping around a bit here, and I say this because
it's all non-structured.
Because sorry about that. I tried to turn it off, motherfucker. So I say it's because it's rock and roll based, and I know that this question is going to come eventually. But for me, that's one of the things I feel very lucky about with playing music is that I'm always around people that are paying the price and the consequences for their actions and for their drinking and drug use when they relapse. And, I guess it's a little bit of that saying of keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. To me, and somebody's asked this the other day, because I was in a situation that was with a lot of drinking and a lot of drugs and a lot of other things were going on. It was fucking bananas. And someone's like, how do you stay sober around this? And I'm like, because I know what you guys are going to be like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, I know where this goes. Like, I know where this goes. And they're like, well, what, this isn't tempting to you? I said, no, you know what's tempting to me? The guy that's sitting outside drinking one beer. Yeah. And I can see that sweating. And he drinks like half the beer and he walks away. That guy scares the shit out of me. Because I don't know about that. I'm like, how does that guy work? Because the other guy's like, I know where that goes. You know?
Yeah, we know how that plays out. But how does, I don't get those people too with the half a beer. I'm like, you just wasted like how many calories and you're not even getting a buzz, but that's the chick in me. But yeah, being around it and seeing, and I know you've lost people. I know, I believe you played with Wayne, Static X, correct? Yeah. And we just had International Overdose Awareness Day. And, I don't want to make this about me, but maybe sometimes part of the reason why I do this podcast, I'm going to say, is for very selfish reasons, because I do struggle so much and have such a hard time. And I've seen people die. I've had best friends die. I've had everything that you're talking about happen. And what do you like? I guess I just wish I had that, whatever the word is, to be able to think the tape through like that. Sometimes I can, but then I'll try and kind of splice the tape around a little bit, like the old reel to reel. I'll splice this and splice that out and everything will be okay, because I don't know. For me, I feel like, there had to have been, and I don't want to talk about the spirituality side too much because I don't know where you stand, but it's got to be more than a decision. Because we're addicts and we can't really hold, I don't know. I know I can't stick to a decision. I can't make a decision.
And sometimes it kind of bums me out telling people this because I feel like I can't, not a lot of people have the experience that I had. And my experience was, I got sober within 3 months. It was like a weird thing. Like I went to my first meeting and I fucking hated it. Mm-hmm. And then I went to my second meeting, and this is in the middle of Pennsylvania, middle of nowhere. And I walked in and I was wearing pink glitter Doc Martens. I had purple and pink dreadlocks. And I walked in and I remember opening up the door at the back because I'm getting there late, right? Because I'm not getting there on time. Getting there late, leaving I already planned out that I was going to leave early. But I open up the doors and I look, and it's just like a cotton field. It's all old people. It's all old timers. And I'm like, this is my second meeting, right? And I'm like, oh, fuck this, man. Sit down. And I heard everything everybody said. And it was all really clear to me. And I remember one woman shared, she was like an older woman. And she was in an outpatient facility. And she was relapsing because she was filling up her windshield wiper reservoir with vodka. And she would go out and she would stick a straw in there and drink vodka. And I'm like, this chick is such a bigger like rock star than me. That is fucking insane. I would never do that. But do I want to keep wasting my life where she is? You know what I mean? And I got a sponsor, and I worked the steps. And in the first 3 months, I was like, I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change. Got 3 months, and I'm like, I want to change, and cut my hair and all kinds of shit like that. Cut my hair. Was just kind of lost, but in a good way, like it was probably like the first time I kind of let go of my ego and was like, hey, I don't know who the fuck I am, man, but I know that what I was doing wasn't working. And I started to play a little bit. I started to play music a little bit, started to get my feet back into that world. And, I had a boss at the time. I was selling military components to India, and that's a whole other story. But, but my boss said to me, she was like,
we'll have you on again and we'll talk just about that. How's that? I see.
That is an insane story. But she said, she's like, what do you want to do? And this is like a woman that survived she was a Jewish woman who survived the Holocaust.
Okay.
She's like, what do you want to do? It's like, because you don't want to work here. And I'm like, I don't want to work here. She's like, all right. She's like, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to play music. She's like, so go play music. And I'm like, but it's not that easy. And she's like, no, it is that easy. And I'm like, it's not that easy. You don't understand. You got to get a demo, and you got to make a manager, and she's like, bullshit. It is that easy. Go out there and fucking do it. And it was the first time anybody ever said that to me. And something clicked, and I was like, all right. So I started auditioning for musicals. I started putting in job applications at music stores, like anything that was music related. Because when I was an addict, I had to be the lead singer. It had to be my band. We had to get a big record deal. Everything had to be my way, right? And I got sober, and I had that freedom of thought where it was like, okay, like maybe the path to get what you want is a lot wider than you're making it. And so I ended up after I got a year, a band that I had helped kind of put together when I was using was a band called Dope. They had got a record deal, big record deal on Epic, and it was right around my 1 year anniversary. And they said, hey, we're looking for a guy. We got our record deal. We're going on tour. It's everything. It's the dream. You want to do it. You want to move to New York and do this. And I didn't see that as a coincidence. I saw that as got a year. The year is a gift, but you're going to have to earn anything after that. Mm-hmm. And I made a promise to myself that if I use, this all goes away. You're going back to Pennsylvania. You're going into an in-treatment facility. You're going to rehab. You're doing it the hardcore way. And I didn't want to do that, and then it just kind of made sense. Like, why would I do that anyway? Why would I fuck all this up?
Right. When you already have
So
it.
For me,
yeah.
We were talking about, for me, that's always been my superstition, if you will. Mm-hmm. And it's worked.
Yeah. It's when people say like relapse is part of recovery. No, it's not. That's bullshit. Yeah. It's not part of recovery. What it is not doing what you're supposed to do for your recovery, and there's your consequence. You're back to you. It's not. I hate that. I hate when people say that. As a relapser, I hate it. Because it's a great excuse for me to be like, it's part of my recovery. Where's the bar? It's part of my recovery. Such bullshit. So I mean, the way that your brain operates is definitely a lot different than mine. And that's one of the reasons why I like having people on here that have a lot of sobriety, and I like to ask them and pick their brain, because I'm still new in recovery. I'm not new to AA. I mean, I've been at this long time. But I have my sobriety now, and just got to keep listening, and I have to keep going to meetings. I just, with this podcast, I'm interviewing so many different people that have so many different ways of staying sober and getting sober and this and that and California sober and smoking weed and microdosing with mushrooms and I hear all that stuff. I want to do it. I want to do it. I want to microdose with shrooms. Don't you?
Yeah, I totally. And in fact, it's really funny because even through my recovery, like I've always, people have said, all right, like if you could do just one thing, like what would you want to do? And I'd be like, well, shrooms. Like, fine. It's like, cause like, what's the point in like drinking a beer or drinking, like if I'm going to go for it, like I want like a Hunter S. Thompson fucking experience. I really want to go for it,
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough disease. And why do you think that it's so many musicians and creative types are the ones that seems, well, I can't say that because it doesn't discriminate, this disease. But, my son, you see the guitars in the background. These are not my guitars. I don't play guitar. My son does. And when you were describing yourself as a kid, I was just thinking so much of my son. It was like, he's probably, at first, he probably was just picking up the guitar to get laid too, even though he was like, whatever. But, so wait, what is this? A PMS? No, not a PMS. I'm just kidding. What's a PRS? I spoiled the little brat with he's got a PRS. He's got he's so spoiled. But anyway, yeah, I think that was the first reason why he picked up the guitar, was to get laid. But he said to me, he was like, Mom, it surprises me that you want me to be a musician, or that you encourage me to be a musician, because all musicians turn out to be drug addicts. And I'm like, well, Hunter, that's not necessarily true, maybe a lot of the music that I listen to, but hey, and then I was trying to challenge myself. Who's not an addict? Really? Like, what rock star is not an addict? I'm trying to think. Dave Grohl, maybe?
Dave Grohl's probably not, and probably nobody in his band. He probably doesn't employ.
No. Yeah. Well, Taylor is in recovery because he overdosed. Remember? I don't know if you know that. The drummer. Yeah. But yeah, Dave. Yeah, he won't put up with no bullshit. I took the poster down for you. I have a huge Dave Grohl poster up here, but I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want it, because a lot of guys hate Dave Grohl. Listen, I'm a 51-year-old chick. Okay. I'm going to love Dave Grohl, but I don't know how we got to Dave Grohl with this. So so you have, maintain your sobriety. You still go to meetings? You still help others? Yep. Yes. Okay. That's a yes. Cause not everyone can see this. Some of this is going to be just Spotify audio. So yeah. So like, how often do you go to meetings, and how do you handle that with the tours and stuff?
Honestly, it's been, through the pandemic, it was easy. I was going probably every day. I was doing it online once.
The Zoom, yeah.
And then ever since the pandemic, ever since the world started to open back up,
now he's not.
My schedule's just been.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it hasn't been as consistent. I make sure I hit at least one a week, but my daily routine is really strong. I wake up every day. When I wake up, first thing is reading daily reflections, writing, journaling about it, daily reflections, journal, gratitude list, meditation. And that process takes me about an hour. It's not easy.
So you seriously get up an hour earlier just to do this work?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's why you stay sober. I mean, people that are, do that, that's what they say, do the work. I get up every morning and I do my meditation as well. Meditation's been a lifesaver for me, just because I have more than just addiction. I struggle with the depression and the ADD and all that friggin' bullshit that drives me crazy. And the only thing that pretty much helps my head is meditation. How do you do your meditation? Do you do mantra meditation? Do you do guideds?
It depends. Well, they're all guided.
Yeah.
There's two different podcasts I really like. One is called Dharma Punks NYC, And then another one is called Refuge Recovery.
I know
or
Refuge
Against the
Recovery.
Stream.
Yeah.
That's a guy named John. Cool.
You just
Are
cut
you in
out.
California?
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not in California, but we know all about Refuge Recovery. And didn't like Refuge Recovery break apart and spin off? There was some controversy. Do you know what I'm talking about with Refuge Recovery?
Yeah, I heard about it a little bit, and the little bit that I heard, I decided to ignore because, people, in my opinion, you got to remember we're all human. And we tend to put people in recovery and especially like when you get long periods of time and when you the more you stick your head up, the more likely it is to get chopped off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So,
I love that. Mm-hmm.
So I tried not to, I know what I liked about it. I cherry pick what I like, take what you like and leave the rest. So, and we do live in a world right now where everybody's an expert and everybody claims to know what really happened and what really went on. I don't fucking know.
Yeah. Nor, you know what? That's one person too. I mean, in AA, they say that Bill W. was tripping on acid and taking psychedelics when he was writing the 12 and 12. So, I like the way you're thinking about that because I got to be honest. And for those that don't know, Refuge Recovery is it's like a different program than AA. It's based more around Buddhism and they do meditation. They don't have 12 steps. They have some other type of steps. It's not like Smart Recovery, which is a whole different thing, which is more scientific. This at least still has a very, very strong spiritual component to it. And they believe very much in like fellowship and everything that, Alcoholics Anonymous believes in as well. I just want to inform people that are like, what's Refuge Recovery? Because a lot of times I'll listen to podcasts and someone will say something and I'll be like, what the fuck is that? I don't even know. And so in case you're driving and you don't want to Google Refuge, that's what Refuge Recovery is. So, yeah, thank you for that because I like that spin on it because I wasn't there. Who knows what was there? So it's a good program. It's a good alternative to AA. So,
sick people helping other sick people,
Right. Just like, just like a sponsor isn't always going to say the perfect thing or have the right words or do, because we're just all humans, right? We're human beings, spiritual beings actually having a human experience. So, what do you have? So I know now you have like 20 years.
22.
Oh, 22 years. Shoot. Yeah. Done this a long time. So, a lot of people I know that when I told them I was interviewing you, they all want to know about what it was like to perform with Joan Jett. Everybody wants to know, how'd you hook up with Joan? I just got to cover this for at least 2 minutes. How'd you hook up with Joan Jett? How did this all happen? Acey played bass with, do you prefer the bass or regular guitar? I'm like just shooting at you here with questions, but.
I play both.
I know you play both. Which do you have a preference?
Right now, I prefer bass.
Yeah?
Yeah, right now I do. Yeah.
Who's your favorite bass player?
Oh,
Jacko?
Alvin Gibb. Who's that?
Jacko?
Oh, Jaco Pastorius?
Yeah.
No, too many notes.
Oh, really? I'm talking to Punk. Yeah, maybe like 3 notes. All right.
Ramone, Gene Simmons, Alvin Gibbs from UK Subs, but my favorite is James Jamerson, who played on all the Motown classics, and Carol Kay, who's a woman who played on a lot of Motown classics, but all the Beach Boys records. I mean, she played on a million records. Google her name. There's a great movie called The Wrecking Crew that she's involved in, but she was a woman that the amount of records that she's played on in her career is insane.
Wow. Yeah, I have Carol Kay.
Mm-hmm.
Carol Kay. I'm not. You stumped the DJ, Acey. You stumped the DJ. I hate that. But I have a feeling that if you and I started talking rock and roll, you'd stump me a lot. You go a little deeper than me. You go way deeper than me. So, all right, tell us a little bit, just quickly, how did you hook up with Joan Jett from, the bands that you've played in? Well, I mean, the Runaways definitely have that flavor for sure. So,
yeah, it was, you're lucky. Because to me, luck is like walking down the street and finding a $20 bill. I like to think I'm fortunate, but I consider myself lucky. Like, I mean, you know, the whole time you're doing this, the sacrifices that you make, the time away from your family, the lack of health insurance. I don't got a 401k. You'll see my 401k? See those guitars?
I like your my son would love your 401k. That's great.
I love this 401k.
Yeah. We're working on his, yeah.
But yeah, it's you know, but the Joan thing though, I can't lie, that was that hit me at a time where I'd played in Dope, I'd played in the Murderdolls, I'd played in 2 bands that had major label deals. I tried to branch out on my own and get my own record deal with my own band. It didn't work out. Nothing. It was one of those times where like nothing was really working out, and I was working so hard, and I was trying so hard to make things happen. I was doing everything I could to get things off the ground. And I mean, I'd worked in music marketing. I had done everything at this point, and I'm like, man, how come nothing is fucking happening? And it was the first time where I kind of was like, all right, like, I guess this is it. Like, you know, I guess I kind of surrendered to whatever the universe had in store for me. And I've seen this happen time and time again where, like, when I work my fucking hardest and I've done my best and I've done everything I can and I've exhausted every possibility, I don't quit. But I kind of put my hands up and like, I don't know what to do. Like give me direction. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, I'm not quitting, but I'm going to stop trying to force an outcome, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I have those moments where I take a break. That's when something falls right out of the sky. And Joan, I was working at this retail store in Soho, and I was selling like rock and roll jewelry, like this shit. And our clients were like Steven Tyler, Nikki Sixx, people like that. And Joan's drummer's wife worked there, and she knew I played in bands, and I went to cosmetology school. I was like, maybe I'm supposed to learn how to cut hair. I don't know.
You did? This is really?
Yeah.
After how many years ago was this?
Oh, this would have been 10 years ago.
Okay, so this was after the success of Dope and all that. After all that, huh? Wow. Yeah. Okay.
There's in the industry too, because at that time there were no more major labels.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So all the money that was in the industry had dried up. So it was a hard time, and it continues to be a hard time. But I went to cosmetology school. I started working at a salon. The day I started doing that, I got a phone call, and it was Joan's drummer's wife. And she's like, "Acey, what are you doing?" Like, "Oh, I'm working at a hair salon." She's like, "Okay, go home, 5 Joan Jett songs. Your audition is on Wednesday. If you nail it, the first gig is in 2 weeks, and then you're off to Australia after that." And honestly, I didn't do anything to try to get that gig. And when you're talking about an icon like Joan, and you try to resume up and like, yeah, well, I played in Dope and I played in the Murderdolls, they're like, who the fuck is that? Like, if your name isn't Dave Grohl, or if it isn't, you know, David Bowie, or if it isn't like one of those types of people, they don't fucking know. Doesn't mean shit to somebody like Joan, you know? Mm-hmm. So, I went to the audition, I got it, and after that.
You must have killed that audition. You must have you must have killed. Seriously. I would love to see that audition on video. Do you have it?
You know, I can't. There was a moment where she scared the shit out of me, as only Joan can.
Really? Did she really? Was she intimidating? Is she?
She's so intimidating. Our tour manager used to say, she's the only person that can look at a glass of milk and make it curdle. Obviously, he was Southern.
So funny.
But I'll never forget, we because the whole process had to happen quickly because they were going to Australia. So they wanted to get somebody quick. They weren't holding auditions. It was like, well, here's a guy. Let's see if he works. So I only had but a couple days to learn the songs. And, you know, it was a really big audition. The whole band was there. They had the full PA. It was the whole thing. And there was a moment where Joan called out a song, And all along we'd been playing the set. She called something out of order, and it caught me off guard. And we started the song, and I choked. And she looks at me, she's like, "Do you know this or not? Like, do you fucking know it?" And I'm like, "Yep." And I was like, "Please just put my fingers in the right place." And I knew it.
Yeah.
So I guess I did end up nailing it in the end, but man, I had no shit moment for sure.
Wow. Yeah. At the beginning of this podcast, I told you I met Joan, and it was just very brief, and it was just the weirdest experience. I told you it was just very bizarre. And yeah, I like how she says she could make milk curdle, because there's just something about her vibe, you know, like she walked in the studio, and this was like a rock station in the 90s. We had everybody through that, you know, in and out of that studio that you can imagine. But man, when she came in, it was like, it was like so different. It was like just something about her vibe. So I wondered what it would be like to work with her, you know, if she like loosens up a little bit, or, you know, but I don't know. We saw the movie, my producer and I, we just saw, did you see the movie where they portray her, the girl from in the vampire movies? What the hell's her name? We'll have it flashing on the screen by the time we drop this episode. But yeah, there's a pretty cool movie about the story of her life. I don't know if you saw it. Yeah, Kristen Stewart, of course. Did you see the movie?
Yeah, that nailed. That is Joan. That she did it to a T. She was fucking perfect.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you if that was a good portrayal or not. I love this. That's really cool. That's awesome. But you're our star, not Joan. Acey is our star. So what do you got going on now? I read on your Instagram page that you're thinking about, or that you miss doing music. You're going to be going in the studio or something solo. I don't know. Maybe that was just a blog that you did, but also we got to talk about this coffee that you have. So let it roll.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how, you know, what's the saying? When you make plans, God laughs, or something like that. It's been a long time. You know, when the pandemic kicked off, my wife and I started our own coffee company called Catfight Coffee. And that is going awesome. But I put all my energy and focus into the coffee company. Like I wasn't writing songs hardly at all. And it just wasn't where my head was at. You know, it was a really dark time. I mean, not just for myself, but I think everybody dealt with it differently. Like a lot of musicians wrote like double albums, like they dove head first into their music. I don't want to say cynically, but I looked at it like, fuck, man, like this is already a really hard industry to make money in and to monetize. Wow. Like, and now you have this, the only place anybody was really able to make a living was off of playing live. And now we can't even play live. Mm-hmm. So I was not inspired to pick up my instrument hardly at all. And so I dove into my coffee company, and I still am, and I'm still very passionate about it. So we started Catfight Coffee. That's my that consumes a good half of my day. And then the other half is music. You know, I work with the Misfits, work with the band Dope still. My old band, the Murderdolls, we had been in talks to do some reuniting for next year. And then our drummer our guitar player rather passed away. So that kind of ended up putting that on ice for a while. But there's two other projects that I'm working on that will reveal themselves soon. I'm not allowed to say what they are, but they're pretty cool things. So I've got a lot of music stuff going on, and drinking a lot of coffee.
Good. I'm excited. And I want to know more about that coffee. So I'm a Starbucks head. Okay. That's probably the worst word to use in your presence, but I'm like, this shit's like crack. Cause I just look at the line, and like, I'm sitting there waiting in line for like 40 minutes for a Starbucks. I'm like, what is the matter with my life? You know, that I'm doing this, and I'm always looking for an alternative. And to be honest with you, we just purchased, because I like my foam. I like my almond milk foam. So I just purchased, I got it online. It was like right out of the box, but it was used, but it was out of the box. It was the best deal on it. and it makes cappuccino and almond milk, and I still haven't figured out how to use it. I don't know how these kids could even work at Starbucks. It seems confusing, but I'm just learning how to do it. So anyway, coffee, what is it? Different flavored coffee? Is it obviously, I'm sure that you like tell me what is different about your coffee. Why am I going to go to you? Because I love you, but tell us what's different about it.
Well, the main thing the main idea behind Catfight Coffee was this. A lot of your independent coffee shops, and whether it's Starbucks or the other hipster ones, can be extremely pretentious, but those guys have the best fucking coffee.
Yeah, so, for like $10 a friggin' it's like $10. I can't get out of Starbucks without $10 3 times a day. Anyway, sorry.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
Well, I hate to break your heart, but I'm probably hitting that same price point, but with a much better attitude and with much better, let's see here, much better branding and much better marketing. So this is our hot coffee. What do I got here? This is our Iron Claw. And like our bags, we do little old school like cereal box games on them, make them fun.
I love it.
That one has this, and then this guy has another game on it. So we're kind of taking like the cereal box kind of mentality. But the coffee is exceptional quality. Most of our coffee falls in the top 20% of coffee that's traded on the market. And the stuff that hit that certification is still kosher, gluten-free, obviously, organic, Arabic coffee. It's still exceptionally good quality coffee. But that's usually our flavored coffees. And we keep our flavored coffees kind of to a minimum. They have to be flavors that are already in the coffee wheelhouse. So for example, we do a black walnut, which like nutty tastes are normally in a coffee profile, but we'll never do like a strawberry daiquiri coffee because strawberry daiquiri doesn't exist in a coffee profile. So
does that mean if I'm going and I'm getting like a strawberry daiquiri flavor coffee that it's just being like sprayed with all kinds of shit? I mean, how do they flavor it? Probably. Strawberry? Yeah. So how do we get your coffee, Acey? First of all, I love the idea because, you know, I'm a product of the 70s too and early 80s, and my Count Chocula cereal box, and I stare at it and look at the back. You know, the cereal boxes I miss. I like album covers. Our kids are missing out on, like when you go to a record store, you worked at one, you know, nothing like it. Opening up the album and looking at all the pictures, and you know, just these days we don't get those experiences. So what a brilliant idea to put that stuff on the back of the coffee bag. I love it while you're drinking your coffee, just, you know, instead of maybe getting off your phone for a second. So where do we find it? How do we get your coffee? I want some.
Catfightcoffee.com.
Simple as
Very
that.
Very easy.
Okay, perfect. And we'll put it up on the screen for you guys. And Acey just told you he's got a lot going on, got a lot to look forward to. Are you going on the road anytime soon?
Yeah, I have October 9th at Aftershock Festival in Sacramento, California. And then I have a European tour in November, December with another band. And Dope just will have a whole year of touring ahead of it if it doesn't conflict with other gigs that I have planned. So yeah, unfortunately, this year was, everybody was hoping that this year was going to make up for no gigs last year. Mm-hmm. But, you know, scheduling, it's been a little bit of like drinking water from a fire hose. You know? Yeah,
I know it's been tough. It's been tough, but you know, at least you're getting out. You're getting out more, and I'm so glad that you came on here and educated and helped me. You definitely helped me, because anytime I could talk to somebody with 22 years sobriety, I'm going to take what they said and definitely bank that. And so excited for everything that you have going on. And give your sister a big kiss for me. Acey's younger, Tony, the younger one. She's a sweet girl, and she's the one that hooked us up. And when you're here in Florida, whatever band it is, I'll be there wearing my I'm with the band shirt.
Where in Florida are you at?
I'm in Palm Beach, Florida. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So I know you played the Button. Well, it used to be called the Button South. It's called something else now. But I briefly saw it. I can't remember which band, but you were in Fort Lauderdale. No, gosh, I think it was like already 2016 or something. You played this small club. Was it with Dope or I don't know? I think Static. I think you were playing with Static. You're like, yeah, whatever. I know. It's like when you talk to a musician about gigs, they're like, it's like asking me. When you walk the dog, yeah, I walk the dog 4 times a friggin' day. I don't remember what you're talking about, right? So
I usually have a good memory about these things. So that's why I like to listen, because I'm like, I don't know.
It's not called the Button South anymore. I have to look it up, but it was interesting because somebody was interviewing you on it was some podcast, had a really cute name to it too, and you guys were in Fort Lauderdale at this small club. What the hell's the name of that show? It's like, as if this happened or something. The show's called like, oh, so that happened. Or so this happened. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
I remember.
Yeah. They were, that was Florida. That was right around. So you coming back?
There's a really great vegan place that's like catty food. I hope so. Hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks again. I don't want to take up too much of your time. And my God, I could talk to you. I mean, I still have a million things I want to talk to you about. Like, who's your favorite band to play with? So maybe we'll have you on again and we could just talk music, because I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. At the end of the day, I am a wannabe for a rock music podcast, not a podcast about recovery. That's just the truth. You know, I thought when I saw myself having any kind of any podcast, for sure it was going to be, just talking music and rock and roll with musicians. And then for some reason I turned out to be the poster child for sobriety, which is hilarious. But anyway, Acey Slade. Thank you so much for coming on Sober Exposure. And come back anytime. All right. Need more? Of course you do. The show's all about needing more. Go to my website at soberexposure.show or get stuck on my Instagram at soberexposure_podcast.